Hi Nina, welcome to Only 5 Minutes.
Hi Beatrice, thanks for having me.
Slovenia is introducing go-to areas for renewables and accelerating the permitting process. Can you tell us more about this?
The majority of solar power in Slovenia comes from residential. So that means that we are a long way from reaching our targets, meaning mainly that we need to do something about the utility scale rollout. And that is something that the government is trying to do. They have introduced an application, actually an interactive application prepared by the system operators together with all the DSOs. It's basically an interactive map of the electrical grid where you can identify the connection points, so potential connection points for utility scale renewables. This is first thing they did, and this is accompanied by the new law proposal. It has been prepared last September, but it has been now a bit revised during the intersectoral cooperation, and it's now subject to the third round of these negotiations. So what we can expect now is that the mainly solar and of course wind as well will be able to be implemented where there was no possibility before. That means that they're introducing the overriding interest, they're introducing the floating PVs and the agrivoltaics, and they're introducing the possibilities of placing renewables by the road infrastructure, on the road infrastructure, by the road infrastructure, and they are introducing the dual and even multiple land use. That means that in addition to the primary land use, you will be able to add the activity of renewable energy production.
And what will the impact be on agrivoltaics?
There seems to be some serious setback in agrivoltaics in the last round of negotiations. Because the comparison of the first proposal to this one clearly shows that there is a very, very limited possibilities for the rollout of agrivoltaics. If I illustrate that, that means that the agrivoltaics will only be possible on permanent grasslands or agricultural land that is becoming a grassland, basically, and not for permanent plantation. That is a big limitation because you rule out the orchards, the vineyards, where elsewhere it has been proven that is very beneficial, if not even symbiotic for the PV to be in agriculture.
Why were changes introduced for agrivoltaics in particular?
As was said at the presentation of this draft at the end of January, the Ministry of Agriculture is the one that is blocking the process. And they have made some compromise, but some negotiations still need to be executed. I don't know what to say, because they said naturally that not enough data is on agrivoltaics and its influence, but to block it means that the ministry proposing the law will not be able to remove this absolute barrier. So the only possibility for testing the agrivoltaics in this concept and with this law remain the regulatory sandboxes. But that means the process is described as needing to include the government in the process. So if you prepare one project and it needs to go through the whole process and then the government needs to approve it, you know, procedural wise, that's not optimal.
How much solar did Slovenia install in 2022 and what can we expect for 2023?
So in 2022, I'm glad to say we had a record year, like elsewhere in Europe. We installed over 250 megawatts of solar. And that means in Slovenia, it's almost solely household solar. If we look at the numbers of how many permits were actually issued last year, it's almost double than the number of the operational new PVEs. So for 2023, we are not worried. We are expecting a good year again, so meaning sustained high demand for solar, which is in Slovenia driven by two factors mostly. First one being the energy crisis as elsewhere in Europe. The second one being an end of an era. Actually, the net metering mechanism is coming to an end this year. So this means that in practice, all those who have been considering solar will probably decide to join and to invest in solar in households, because in that way they will be able to be in this net metering mechanism. And as we know, this is financially very beneficial.
Thank you for your 5 minutes.
Thanks for having me, and thank you for giving the opportunity to a small market as Slovenia is. Bye-bye.